and welcome to the Hills 3-Minute Recap. We know that a lot of you are out doing more important things than sitting around and watching 20 minutes of programming on MTV. I, however, am not. I'm SarahLena and I'll be your host. This is for the episode Kristen and Brody Hook Up, as my TiVo likes to call it. However, The Hills has chosen the much classier title, This is Goodbye. We start out in one of our many meet and eat situations with Stephanie and Holly having lunch. This is what Stephanie calls lunch 1 of 3 because they have quite a few lunches to sit and talk about. Now, if you don't follow The Hills, Holly is the sister of Heidi. Stephanie is the sister of Spencer. So together they sit and bitch and moan about how Holly, Heidi, and Spencer have gone off the deep end. You're going to see a lot of that in this episode. Holly says that Spencer is concerning her with his threatening nature towards her, that he has threatened to kick her out on more than one occasion, to move back to Colorado if she knows what's good for her, all of that stuff. And of course, Stephanie dismisses it because it's her brother and says, well, you know, Heidi is not exactly innocent in this one either. Stephanie, much to my amusement, says, I've never had to deal with a situation like this. And I want to be like, Stephanie, you deal with bulimia and a DUI. I think you've dealt with situations like this. We immediately move over to another meet and eat situation. After doing this recap, I realized that The Hills is basically about eating, going to a club, or going to Kristen Cavallari's house. That's it. And a lot of pensive stares. Okay. Next we meet Heidi and Kristen. They're going to have a lunch together to discuss, again, how crazy Spencer is and what Heidi needs to do to fix it. Spencer, of course, his big issue in life, according to Heidi, is that he has no friends. He misses the bromance he had with Brody. Kristen is like, yeah, okay, but he's still really scary. This is not the crazy fun Spencer that I knew from high school. He's gone a little bit nuts. And Heidi says, I don't have my family anymore. I don't have my core group of friends anymore. Who am I without Spencer? Therein lies the problem. Although, just from a viewer's point of view, all of this seems a lot scripted. Anyway. We now visit, the only unique setting that we're going to have this entire episode. Audrina visits her new boyfriend, Ryan Cabrera, in the studio. Audrina says, hey, Kristen and I want to throw a party with all of our friends. And he says, what do you mean, all of your friends? And she said, well, you know, you can invite your friends and I'll invite my friends. Ryan, having issues with Brody in the past, says, you know what, I think I'm going to pass on that. So he doesn't want to have any lunch with him. Okay, next to the club scene, this is the party with everybody. Brody pulls Audrina aside, even though she has shown up with her boyfriend, and says, hey, I want to talk about life with you. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to a club with lots of single drunk men, but every time they want to talk about life, that means, hey, I'm hoping to get in your pants tonight. So she flat out calls him on the carpet in front of everybody and says, I know that you want me, but I have a boyfriend, Brody, and I know that you just want what you can't have. Brody, in his ever-articulate way, says, whatever, Audrina. Then, much to the chagrin of everybody in the room, bum bum bum, cue the ominous music, here comes the crazy Spencer. So he shows up and says, well, the warden's released me, I'm allowed for a night out. Who's the warden? Makes you wonder. Anyway, Stephanie immediately sees Spencer since he's not talking to her and says, I want to leave, because she's hurt. And so Audrina's called over to the table where Spencer and Brody have been reconnecting and reigniting their romance. Audrina's called over to the table and says, hey, where's Heidi? And he says, you are the lamest fucking girl in this entire club. Completely unprovoked. Could have been editing, could have just been Spencer's nuts. Then Audrina walks away because, of course, she's a little bit shut down. And Brody's like, dude, what's going on with you? And he said, I just fucking hate that bitch. Where did that come from? There has never been any drama between Audrina and Spidey. Like, ever. I've watched for several seasons. Never been any drama there. Anyway. So then, of all things, Brody and Spencer get into it. I mean, the bromance, totally gone. And Spencer threatens him to walk away if you know what's good for you. Walk away before we have a problem. Dude, Spencer, your problem started a long time before Brody, and quite a long time before this scene. So anyway, Spencer is then talking to Frankie, the mutual friend who we really don't know anything about, and says, nobody knows quite how dangerous I am. Next scene. Another meet and eat situation. We now meet Audrina and Stephanie for lunch. So Heidi apparently called Kristen and Audrina and wanted to have lunch with all of them. Should they go? Should they not go? Audrina's asking Stephanie what her opinion is. And Stephanie says, well, I think you should go and find out what's wrong. Something's very crazy there. They're all nuts. You should go and find out what's going on. All right, very exciting. So Audrina says, okay, well, I'll tell you what happened. And Stephanie said, yeah, try and bring me up. See what she says about me. That's real mature, Stephanie. Stephanie says about Spencer, he's a loose cannon and Heidi's there for the ride. So anyway, cut to the next lunch. Audrina has a lot of lunches this day. Audrina meets Kristen for lunch. They begin to talk, and Heidi shows up as soon as they've had enough time to talk about how much they hate her. Heidi shows up, sits down at the table, and they say, hey, you know what? I think that Spencer owes Audrina an apology. And Heidi said, no, I think he's fine. And then Heidi says, all guys are a little bit controlling. And then she says the most amazing thing, and perhaps the most telling thing in my little opinion. She says, when they say, hey, you've changed quite a bit and you're not the same person you were, she said, you guys don't know me. Spencer didn't change me. I've changed myself. I don't have the energy. I don't have the time. And that's why I've cut you off. Straight from the horse's reconstructed mouth. All right, cut to the second club scene. We join Stacy, Kristen, and Audrina at the club. Then the boys join them, which is just a huge group of boys, really. Brody among them. Brody, Frankie, other boys that we don't know. And then Stephanie and Lo join them, and then we have to start building the subtext at this point, because if you follow at all in the tabloids, you know that Spencer and Heidi are not welcome towards the end of the season of The Hill. So we've got to start building another plot line, because this is getting old for them. So, you see Brody and Kristen drinking heavily, flirting heavily, and then cue ominous music again, dun dun dun, here comes Spidey, the duo. Heidi pulls out crystals and starts handing them around the table and saying, here, hold this. This is what you do to unlock your brain. Here, hold this one. This is for protection in war zones. Yes, she really did that. I didn't just put that in on my own. She was insinuating that just her being there put her in a war zone. Spencer leans over and very proudly says, I don't let her watch TV. I don't let her get on the internet. I completely keep her plugged out of the Matrix. Crazy. Anyway, all she's allowed to do, per Spencer, let's see, all she does is read and write poetry and pray. And then Heidi says, and read books, like we hadn't covered that already. And he says specifically it's to keep her logged out of the mainstream. Holly's miffed that Heidi walked completely by her and didn't say anything, not even a hi, not even a smile. And she says, why do I keep sticking up for her if she's going to treat me this way? Very good question. Why are you, Holly? And then we're going to cut to Spencer examining crystals in the candlelight of the bar. The man might be crazy, but he's crazy like a fox. All right, we're going to cut back to Kristen's house. Kristen, it is the morning after the club scene. And guess who shows up for coffee? Oh, that would be Brody, where he spent the night. He's wearing a midriff shirt that apparently belonged to Kristen. And that's not awkward at all. He says, okay, so we made out. And Kristen said, God, I don't remember that. He said, well, I remember everything after that, insinuating that perhaps more happened. Then Brody says, hey, but by the way, I like being single. Kristen says, oh yeah, me too, which sets up the plot line for Kristen acting like a crazy bitch later. We join Stephanie and Lo shopping. There's talk of Spencer and Heidi's behavior, crystals and aliens. And of course, she says, oh, you know what, Audrina's already at Kristen's, but we can get there in 5 minutes, right? And we wonder what's going on at Kristen's house. Well, let's cut to there. So Kristen's house is apparently an intervention for Spidey. Just Heidi, I take it back. We join Audrina, Christy, Holly, Lo, and Steph there, where Heidi joins in a little bit. Audrina says, Heidi is just, there's nothing there. So they discuss, I apologize, Heidi did not join. This was an intervention on Heidi's behalf. She wasn't actually there. Lo wonders when they took the left turn into legitimate Crazy Town versus illegitimate Lazy Town, I guess, Crazy Town. Holly says, my mom talks about Heidi as if she is a child she's already lost if she's died. That's probably the most poignant and organic thing in the entire episode. That really kind of made me sad for Holly and Heidi's mothers, really who I felt bad for. And if you've been watching the tabloids, you know why. Stephanie says, I know my brother, but I think Heidi is manipulative and she loves that role. And they all agree that they're no longer going to talk to or about Heidi and Spencer. And that is your 3-Minute Hills recap. I'll join you next week. I'm Sarah Lena. Thanks so much.